Hi, everyone, and welcome to this very bubble voice. I needed to swallow. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this very special edition of Look What I Found, a Mythos Busters production. I'm Sean. Joining me tonight are my other busters. We've got Scott and Ian. Hey, dudes.
Yo.
Hello.
You guys excited to preview some Prad cards tonight?
Super excited.
Yeah, so excited for this one.
Joining us as well tonight is a very special guest. We've actually never even had a guest on Look What I Found, so we're hopping straight into the headliners here. We've got one Matt Newman. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
This is actually kind of an upsell. Matt's coming over to he's coming over to just record a normal episode of the podcast, but I happen to be here and we're like, hey, could you pitch?
Yeah.
And it turns out he could.
Look what you found.
So here we are. So let's hop right into it. Matt, would you please read Stargazing?
Okay, I will. Stargazing is a zero-cost mystic event. It's level 1. Got one wild icon. Got the Insight and Augury. Got the game text max twice per game. Play only if there are 10 or more cards in the encounter deck. Search your bonded cards for one copy of Stars Are Right. Shuffle it into the top 10.
We did say cards. We have been using the plural words.
But wait, there's more.
So I'll gaze into the future, and in the next, I suppose, in the top 10 cards in the encounter deck, you're gonna put Stars Are Right. So it's a null-costed event. Bonded to Stargazing, of course, got the Augury trait. Revelation. Remove the Stars Are Right from the game. Choose an investigator. That investigator draws one card, gains one resource, and may take an immediate action as if it were their turn.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Stargazing alone is an okay card.
I mean, Stargazing alone does nothing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's okay.
First off, thanks for not putting Surge on the Stars Are Right. Let's get that out of the way first.
Sir, okay, so yeah. So I think it bears pointing out that this type of inject into the encounter deck design came from Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And was that a cycle that you developed? Was that in
Angmar? it was in the Angmar Awakened box, which Caleb developed.
Okay.
But I was
part of that
cycle
brain trust.
following that.
And it was a really cool effect, and it was something that players had kind of been asking for, because in Lord of the Rings it actually is slightly more common for a cool / beneficial thing to come off the encounter deck.
Well, I should say the first instance of it was passing it on
Yes, that's where the want came
It wasn't like
from.
a player card that did it. It was there. It was just like a really hard scenario that would show up and help you.
Yeah,
which
it was really cool.
Yeah,
and that was exactly why there was like this. Man, it would be cool if we could do more things, or if there were more quests like that.
Yeah.
And then instead we got a player card, so it's like, oh, now we can make any quest like that.
Right, exactly.
However, it bears mentioning there were some ifs to that one.
Sure.
That game, it could get randomly discarded as a shadow card and not do anything, which was unfortunate.
Right.
You shuffle it into just the encounter deck, so it was really, if you have a full encounter deck, particularly if you're playing true solo, it probably wasn't. And it had Surge, so you see an encounter card anyway. So I like all the things that you improved upon that basic design. So my question is, how'd you decide on 10?
I think it's just a nice
it is the round number, isn't it?
Yeah, like I wanted it to be deep enough that you weren't, especially in a situation where, like a lot of people would in Lord of the Rings, wait until the shuffle. Right. Aha, I've tricked you, game. So I wanted it to be deep enough that it wasn't guaranteed, but also like not so deep that solo game. 10 is, I think, in a solo game you're likely to get 10 playing this in the first few. Sure. So yeah, it's a good number.
It is a good number.
Yeah,
and it's a reasonable number more than anything.
Yeah. And
one thing I noticed
most of the time it's like a third. Sorry, Scott.
Yeah. Oh no, please cut me off. That is
well, I did.
Yeah. First of all, I have to mention whoever did the art, Katie Grierson on the Northern Lights. Living where the Northern Lights come out often in winter, amazing. Nailed it. Absolutely beautiful. second favorite art in the game now. I love how, like, when I was looking at this and the whole top 10 cards, and you're talking about solo, and you'd probably get to it in 10 rounds. I I love the balance between, because when I saw this, I was like, if you're playing 4-player, you're gonna get this in like 2 turns, right? Like you play it, and in 2 encounter
Yeah.
phase, you know you're gonna skip it, and it's essentially kind of a cancel with a bonus,
Right.
almost like a deny 5 or deny existence 5. Um, but we've seen when you have an investigator like, let's say, Ursula, who gets a bonus action every turn, more or less. She's super strong in solo because she's getting 33% more actions.
Right.
In 4-player, it's like whatever 12 to 13 is. This balances itself well too. Like in solo, this is an amazing effect. You get to take an action, you get a card, you get a resource. Like that's a ton of stuff.
And you
And
don't
you
need to
don't
encounter
get an
card.
encounter card draw.
Yeah, like
Have, like,
you
a whole
cancel
other
something.
turn.
Double whammy.
Yeah, like that's insane in
This is
solo.
like pocket golden watch.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh wait,
Um,
golden
gold
pocket watch.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
We're new.
But in 4-player, you're going to see it way quicker, but the effect is still good, but it's slightly lessened as far as like the efficiency of an action, a card, a resource. That being said, you can also choosing a different investigator, right? Like if this comes up in solo and you have an enemy on you and you weren't going to evade or attack or whatever, and you had a different plan. Yeah, I don't know. I just love the way it seems to balance itself so well at all player counts.
That said, it does take an action. So,
Right.
you're kind of just getting the action.
Yeah.
There is that. But
Plus whatever actions you wouldn't be spending on dealing with an encounter card.
well, it's the perfect card to play when you
Mhm.
you're like, well,
Just look
what
at the
do?
stars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just look up.
Time to stargaze.
Yeah. Casey mentions in the chat it's kind of like guidance, but for yourself, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
Ah,
What's cool about it is when it does come up, you can choose investigator.
Question.
Exactly.
Rules question. Judge.
Sure.
In 4-player,
Judge.
you obviously can't control who's gonna draw this. So someone not the person who played it can draw it. Is
Yep.
that the person who gets to choose the investigator?
Yes, because they're the one resolving
Yeah.
the
Ooh, there'll be some politicking going on in this card.
This goes in my Safina Grief deck. No, maybe it doesn't.
Just choose yourself every
I
time.
don't think it does.
No, it probably doesn't.
It's still pretty nice. Still preventing an encounter card draw.
Okay, I have a rules question, Matt.
Good. Am I just
When you... Haha, gotcha.
You've activated
when
our
you
trap
s-
card.
He's got like a clipboard. He just keeps like going.
Yeah.
through.
Just totally off topic. When it says shuffled into the top 10 cards of the encounter deck, does that mean you take the top 10 cards and shuffle it in, so now there's 11? Or you take 9 and shuffling this in makes 10?
Take the top 10 and then
Okay. Thank you. That's just been asked so many times. I just want to clarify that now that we have something here.
No, that's a good question.
Could matter.
That's
So let's talk about the card, though, guys. Like, this is really good.
Yes.
I think so. I mean, I know we already said this point, but I kind of have to emphasize it just as a long-term Lord of the Rings player. Like the fact that it can't get discarded as a shadow, like that's such a huge like advantage of this version versus the Lord of the Rings encounter cards. With the exception of a certain cycle that we just went through, that there might be a chance it would get discarded. So just keep that in mind when you're playing TCU with this one. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I hesitate to say anything like this is like a must include in every deck, but it's certainly one that I would look at and say I have some extra space in my deck. When does that happen, right? But I have some extra space. Like this is something I definitely look to, and I do love that Norman can take this because it's upgraded. Because
definitely gonna say that.
he should be looking at the stars if anyone is.
for
His,
sure.
his
Yep.
level 0 mystic spots are rough. They're real rough. Don't need to jam any more in there.
The other thing I like about this card is when you draw it like top 10. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
You could also ditch this for a while and play it with eidetic memory.
Yep.
One of the significant has access to aesthetic member.
Yep.
The
So
Daisy.
Daisy.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
I was
just
gonna say
Lola.
like,
Aesthetic member is 3 cost, right?
Sure.
oh yeah.
So-
Hey, Lola Tech, sweet, hot off the press Lola Tech,
There you
guys.
go.
We're bringing
Yep.
it to you here.
Now, does she have to switch to Mystic to do the revelation? No, I'm just kidding.
No, because it's forced.
I know.
You're
I
breaking
think
out another
that-
rules question.
Yeah, no. So Casey mentions in the chat again. If you're Mystic, your first few turns are usually drop a spell or two and grab a resource. And I find that is kind of true, especially multiplayer. Like you kind of set out a couple spells and you're like, I don't want to draw my weakness because Mystic weaknesses seem terrible usually.
Generally.
And like drawing a card or gaining a resource is quite an often taken action, I think. And I think just throwing this in the deck as a support card in Daisy too, like a Daisy support deck where you got Encyclopedia and Old Book of Lore, and now you're Stargazing, like, oh man, this is a nice card.
Premonitioning.
Yeah, I think that Daisy support deck is getting so close to being just like top tier in 4-player.
And I think this is also a thing too, like particularly in solo, if you have Alyssa and you're like scrying the encounter deck every turn, as you do,
Yeah.
and you see this coming, like that's gonna influence the turn that you're on now, because you basically have like kind of a free 2 turns in a row, and that might influence like the actions you select and how you kind of string things together, knowing there's not a Mythos card around the corner.
So
Okay.
I saw someone in chat ask how many copies. It's 2 of each.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So
Nice.
play set 2 Stargazing, 2 stars, right? Okay.
Okay. Another
Does oh
Go ahead, Scott.
go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say the stars are right. Does it have an encounter card back or
Yeah,
player
it's got
card?
an encounter card back. So when you
Okay.
when you open the first time, don't miss
Okay.
that, because it's bundled with the rest of the.
Yeah.
Don't pull a Lita Chandler.
Where's
Yeah, I was
card
gonna say
170?
leave the Lena Chandler. Yeah.
I anticipate some posts coming in.
So yeah, definitely tell all your friends. Don't miss the stars are right.
Mhm.
So
Definitely
who's
don't,
bringing this
accidentally
for
shuffle it into every.
Yeah.
Solo players don't have friends.
So who's
just
bringing
kidding.
this for Iron Man? I think that's Sean.
Yeah, that's probably me.
Yeah.
Hey, I've already committed to doing I'm here to help Diana deck, so
There
it
you go.
seems like it fits right in there.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll be doing some stargazing.
Excellent. Well,
Sean, you did have the question about TCU.
oh yeah,
if-
thank you.
If you're at a spectral location, does this go into the spectral deck, Matt?
I don't have the rules right in front of me, but I believe it would, because I think the rule for that scenario say that basically anytime you would interact with the
Right.
spectral deck. I think so.
Mm-hmm. All right. That that's what I was expecting too. So
Excellent. And the last thing I wanted to point out, I actually think the art looks a little bit like the cracks in time from a little green, but
yeah.
it's reminiscent.
Yeah.
Stargazing reminds me of the art from Dixit. If you ever played that game.
Or it's got that paint.
Yeah.
Very pretty card.
I love.
It is.
You can almost barely tell.
There's a goddamn
The
Reaper in the
creature-
background.
Yeah, the creature
Yeah.
in the space. And
hope
I
you
like that
just
she's
saw.
looking left. Like she doesn't even.
Yeah.
Boy.
I hate to say this in front of Sean, but Mystic gets some of the best art in the game, I feel like.
I
Why do
think
you
it's
hate to say that in
Mystic
front of Sean?
because
I
he's
don't
gonna do that.
Because I make no.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Okay. That checks out.
I think Mystic and Treacheries are tied for the best art in the game.
So true.
You're
It's
not
almost like
wrong. You're not
minions
wrong.
Sort of do things.
Oh my goodness.
We'll
Okay,
do that.
real quick question, Matt. I don't know if you're allowed to answer this. Augury, can you explain to us what the Augury trait means? Because to me, it's messing with the bag or the deck, the encounter deck.
It's basically clairvoyant. anything
Okay.
that deals with your thing. And I
Mm.
shouldn't say anything. Like, it's not a hard and fast rule. Like, it's not like if a card comes out that argue oopsie. But in general, that's what I use it on. And also, like,
Okay.
I think Time Warp. No, Time Warp is a paradox.
Sounds right.
It
I
is,
love
yeah.
Paradox.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the idea.
Is Premonition Augury traded?
Premonition
Yes.
is Recall the Future.
Okay.
Sadly, Scrying is not.
That ever
Oh,
bum
well.
you out where you kind of come up with the theme for a
Yeah,
trait?
it happens. It happens in like every game.
It's happened in every
Um,
game I've played.
I think I've hopefully done a pretty good job of avoiding that as often as all the way back in like early Lord of the Rings had like the archer trait and like Legolas did stuff like that. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
traits are sometimes tough to. But we sat down when the game first started. It out of had all kinds of where they would be.
Mm.
And every now and then we do trait like some
yeah, that kind of came out.
Right.
Augury. Yeah, I believe Forgotten Age. Maybe
Huh?
there might have been
It-
one in Carcosa.
If
Wait,
it was,
well,
it was
when did-
pretty
when did
late
Dark
Carcosa.
Prophecy-
Dark Prophecy was
Okay, so then yeah.
KO card.
But yeah, it's definitely like more recent. Same thing with like
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. Actually, there's only 3 Augury traded cards in the game.
That sounds
Yeah. Forgotten Age, Dark Prophecy, Premonition, Recall the Future. And the Forgotten Age box, Heart of the Elders, Boundary Beyond.
All right, there you go.
All right.
Excellent. Well, very excited to start playing around with this card. I feel like it's going to find its way into a lot of decks.
I think so.
I think.
Mhm.
Okay, so
the one experience puts a little bit.
it does.
Yeah,
It does.
You
And
can't
that's,
just start with it.
that's actually something I was going to throw out there as a weird tangent. This is
Mhm.
why. Do you guys think that experience cards that should kind of be considered stable or kind of get ignored because they're not in that like zero deck that most people would post to like an Arkham DB like that?
I feel like the issue is when you build that level 0 deck, you pick, like, to quote myself, 30 good cards, right? Like 30 cards you want, right? And if those cards,
Scott,
let's
that's
say,
just
like
speaking. You don't have to quote.
right, 30 good cards is
Quote
the
a
best way.
wise man.
Anyways, yeah. To quote a Rhodes Scholar, you have these 30 cards, and if those cards that you want to upgrade, like Shriveling or Magnifying Glass, have an upgraded version, like that's a really easy thing. But
Mhm.
what do you put in your deck at level 0 that's still good, but you're very willing to switch out for Stargazing
Right.
or
Yeah.
another staple? You know what I mean? Like Sacrifice.
Something
Absolutely.
or just like extra hand. You know? But
Mhm.
like 8 hands items.
Oh, yeah,
deck,
my
and you're
shit
like,
deck.
well, I could probably cut 2 of them.
Yeah.
Is that
But
what you
I
said?
like how that went. That took a while to land.
I didn't hear you at
Yeah.
first.
But yeah, I think that's the stumbling block, the
Yeah.
mental stumbling block. And I know I discovered this last year with Iron Man. It made my day when I had my entire deck upgrade. Like, when you get this many experience, take this card out and put this card in, and I planned the whole thing XP by XP. But yeah, Sean, I know what you're saying though. Like, this card I want to put in every deck, but what do I put in right before it?
Right, and I think as a result
Yeah.
of just these kinds of cards get talked about less, kind of less zeitgeist.
Right.
Because-
Yeah.
I think most
And
people
not
want to
because they're-
share like their level 0 deck most.
Right. And not because they're less good, it's just because they aren't in level 0 right at the beginning.
Yeah. No, it's definitely like a thing in this game. The higher cost or the higher level a card is, the less you're
Yeah.
the less off.
Yeah. I think the fact that it's at 1 XP at least, it's like sometimes you have that spare XP just sitting there after you
Mhm.
bought something big, and that
Mhm.
lets you fit it. Like, I definitely hear what you're saying, Scott, because there are some decks I have that I have like this XP sitting there after a scenario, and I'm like, I kind of don't want to upgrade anything because there's I don't want to take it. It's such a weird spot. Like I don't want to take any of this key level 0 stuff out.
Yeah.
But I think with stargazing, like a lot of times how I approach games is thinking about like what are the points of like where the game is hitting back at you. Like in Lord of the Rings, it's like shadow cards and when encounter cards are revealed. In Arkham, it's like obviously chaos token pools and like encounter reveals. And so like the fact that you're basically taking one of those teeth out for that turn, like to me makes it that this card is it's gonna make it in more of my decks than not, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's just cool. that counts for a lot.
And you're so right at that 1 XP just being like, oh, okay. I'll just, that's my one left over, because that does happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to value different experience cards. To me, 1 experience in terms of spending, right?
Sure.
Like,
Right.
it's like a third. It's like half to a third of a scenario's worth of experience, but both copies of it. Basically nothing. The big difference is you can't start. You have
Right.
to build in. You're exactly right. That it makes a big impact. It makes a bigger impact than that.
Yeah. The only Elduck in chat says, just play Father Mateo. I would be
There you
tempted
go.
to take Eucatastrophe and Stargazing. 2 copies Stargazing, 1 copy of Eucatastrophe right from the beginning. That sounds like a fun deck. Just from reading those 3 cards.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under.
Mm-hmm. Best Elder Sign in the game?
That's just the one thing.
I mean, it's definitely like the most gotten, right?
I
Yeah.
forgot it very readily, just until you guys reminded me
just
right
forgot
now.
about it.
I always forget about that.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
It's one of
other-
those under the radar benefits.
yeah. The other
Usually I
thing
use
that
it for... Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, Spirit Athame is usually my, like, 1 XP ones. But
another one card.
yeah, exactly.
I'm told it's nothing.
Ah. Who said that? What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. The other thing I like about this card is it all kinds of
A lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
As are we.
Yeah. Bonded seems just amazing.
already seen
Super fun.
that can get shuffled into your deck that are good. I've
Mhm.
seen and that can get shuffled into the counter deck. That can get shuffled into the deck. Use your imagination.
I thought there was going to be one more on that. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Is this where we lobby Matt to put the bonded motorcycle into the game?
But bonded. I was gonna like things that shouldn't make. Put this token into the deck. Put this card into the chaos bag.
Shuffle the skull token into your deck.
Shuffle this bonded card into the chaos bag. You're
God.
like, what? Oh god, it's getting.
Sean, you know what Bonded reminds me of actually is Star Wars CCG, the shield cards.
Oh yeah, the defensive shields.
Like the little side deck you had that you would use. Kind of like just ever so slightly, but for
that was
anyone
a cool
else who
mechanic
plays
that came out right around the time the game broke in half.
it died and they're like, oh shit, this game's unbalanced. We better put something where you can like just play an automatic like kill card
Yeah.
to this broken combo.
Silver
Yeah.
bullets.
Yep.
Oh, what a tit.
Yeah.
But design is much more civilized now. So thanks everyone for joining us. Episode of Look What I Found. This has been a really fun one to discuss, and thank you, Matt, for coming. So we're about to hop over to the Mythos Busters Discord to record episode 67. Anyone who'd like to join us is welcome to do so. If someone could throw up a Discord link in the chat there.
On it.
Thank you, and I hope we'll be speaking to you relatively soon to card from the first Mythos pack of the cycle. Question mark. No, I wasn't. Bye, everyone.
Bye.